It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
This song just makes me want to get a jug of whiskey and sit in the back hills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Or whatever that stuff you were drinking the other night was.
There we go. Are we there now? All right. There's no record of me drinking in the hotel room at Iowa Speedway. I am Dan Taylor. That is Dirk Houston, and this is the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over there today. Do yourself right. Get yourself some road course racing, because you're going to see it on Fox Sports 1 today. You might as well figure out what it's really like. And these guys are going to talk about when you miss a corner, when you mess up a corner, it really messes up your next 5 or 6 corners. And that's one of the first things I learned racing over at Joe's Karting, is that you have to nail every single corner in order to keep your momentum up.
Yeah, but you literally took nails and a hammer. You don't need nails and a hammer. It's just a phrase. Nail it.
It's a phrase?
Yes.
These phrases always cross me up. All right, today's show, we will recap the race at Michigan and at Iowa Speedway. That's, by the way, the reason why we are live in the studio today, is to recap the action over at Iowa Speedway for the Enogene 250 at Iowa Speedway.
We got more action than we bargained for.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that. In turn number 2, we sat down with Cole Custer, driver of the Stewart Haas Racing 00. We talked to him for just a few minutes on Saturday. And then in turn number 3, we sat down with Justin Allgaier on Friday and talked to him. So we'll talk to those two in turns 2 and 3. And then in turn number 4, we will preview today's race at Sonoma. We'll talk briefly about Daytona, because how much can you really preview at Daytona? They're going to do 202, 205. There's going to be some passing. There might be some wrecking.
No, there will be some wrecking.
Well, let's not guarantee that, because that's not always a guarantee. A couple years ago at Talladega, we never had the big one, and everyone said that was the worst race in the world.
Is Danica not entering? So there's no guarantee for a wreck.
So that's today's show. And again, the front stretch, as always, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Want to make a quick note. Our young gun for today is Buck Shafroth, and happy to say, Buck knocked down his very first stock car win last night. So we recorded the young gun earlier this week when Buck had not won a stock car race yet. So we managed to mention that Buck hopes to get himself a win, and that he has dreams of winning the Adams County Speedway Championship in the stock car division. He was 24 points ahead. Now with the win, he's going to extend that. So congratulations to Buck. Also want to make sure, and Buck wants to send another special thank you to Montgomery Street Pub and Emmanuel Farms, ML Farms, other ones of his sponsors. He wasn't able to get it on the Young Gun segment, so want to make sure and point that out. And if you have any drivers out there that are younger and trying to make their way up in the sports, I-80 Speedway and Insura, Kelly, and Sewell law firms are presenting the Young Guns this year, and they want to profile your young driver. Send us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com. We'll get you all the information. It's absolutely free to be a part of it. You do happen to get a little bit of a prize. We haven't talked about that much. But, the Young Gun segment going along really well this year.
And in a note that's not on the good side of things, we heard last night that a local man by the name of Red Munson had evidently had a heart attack. We don't have a lot of details. We did hear that he was life-flighted out from, they said Harlan Speedway. So
well, and his wife posted on Facebook last night, about 8 hours ago. I've got the post pulled up here. It says, while in mom's shop getting ready to go to Harlan, without any warning, Red collapsed when his heart stopped beating. For almost 15 minutes, they worked on him. She is a medic. I think she's a registered nurse, so she's got some background on that. And apparently, while she was trying to keep his heart going and performing CPR, they broke 6 of his ribs.
That's a normal occurrence on CPR.
Ow, holy cow. And she said miraculously, he is doing great. There's a picture of him in the hospital with them holding hands, a very nice picture. But thank God. Red's a great guy and a big supporter in that community, the racing community, and we're sending out our best thoughts and prayers as he can get back. He can get back into the car as fast as possible. All right, let's talk about Michigan. Not a lot of people are happy about this race, Dirk. There seemed to be a little bit of a caution that threw everyone for a loop. And
it's been a long time since Jacques Debris showed up at the racetrack.
I was just thinking that as all week was going on and everyone was complaining about debris cautions, NASCAR's rigging the races, I got to thinking, with this damaged car policy, we haven't had near the debris cautions this year that we've seen. I mean, typically you'll have, I would assume, upon average, 1, maybe 2 a race. There's some races that it's 4 or 5, and there's some races that there never was. This year, I think we've had maybe a handful, maybe 5, maybe 6.
Well, and I mean, Michigan started out right off the bat. What was it, like lap 13? Their big garbage bags blowing down the straightaway.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to stop for that because that would have caught a windshield and got snagged or something.
Absolutely.
Guy had been driving blind.
Absolutely. And there was a straw hat that they decided not to throw the caution because they're smart enough to look at that and say, at those speeds, if you hit the straw hat, it's just going to disintegrate. But I got to joking with you yesterday when we were driving around at Iowa Speedway that, they threw the caution at the end there for a debris caution, and Fox wasn't able to find the debris, and that's where everyone was throwing a big fit. And my 2 cents worth is, are you shocked that Fox couldn't find it? Because they have a tough time finding the action on the track when there's 40 cars running around in a circle and going to commercial when there is action on the track that they could be covering. So I'm not surprised at all that they couldn't find the debris.
They were so lousy on the truck race Friday night. It was...
Yeah.
Dan just kept yelling at the TV, and I thought he was going to throw something. It's a good thing we were in a motel.
Well, I don't know. My card was on there for incidental, so that wouldn't have worked out very good for me.
But they were terrible. Obviously, being at the race all night last night, we didn't get to hear any of their broadcasts. We didn't have to suffer.
I know.
But it was kind of funny when there were about 100 laps to go and you pointed out on the track and said, look, debris. Oh, there it goes. Justin hit it.
It was like a piece of paper or something. I was expecting NASCAR to throw caution. But anyways, here's how the Michigan race rolled out. Stage number 1 winner was Martin Truex Jr.
Imagine that.
Man,
Martin
this guy,
won a stage.
This guy just keeps racking up the stages. And we're going to play a little game. If we have time to do it today, otherwise we're probably going to end up doing it next weekend during the live show. But I want to give somebody the hypothetical $1 million to go to Vegas and bet on one driver to win the championship. Starting, whenever we do that, and you'll be able to call in and talk about it. But it's getting harder and harder not to put that $1 million on Martin Truex Jr.
Well, with the way this year is going, with the handful of first-time winners and everything, it would just be fitting that the person who wins the championship was a first-timer.
Yeah, and he's racking up so many points, and the important thing to note is that with these bonus playoff points, they're going to carry through to the round of 8, which is going to get you to that last 3 rounds to qualify for Homestead. Homestead is the only race that the bonus points don't factor into. So I think Martin Truex Jr., fingers crossed he doesn't have a round 2 like he did last year when he DNF'd at Kansas and then he DNF'd at Talladega. But even then, he only missed by some 15, 20 points from making the cut. He's already there in bonus playoff points.
I was going to say, if he got to take those to Miami, he'd have to run like 30th.
Yeah.
He'd have to win.
Thank the heavens he doesn't. But, Martin Truex Jr. gets stage 1 and stage 2, but Kyle Larson ends up getting the win. What a roll this kid is on. Comes to Eagle Raceway on Tuesday, wins the race there, goes over to Michigan, wins the race there, which he had won this race last year, so he'd shown that he could win it in Michigan before.
Well, and he won at California, early this year, which is the same track.
Yeah, and kudos to him. He survived many restarts at the end there. It began to turn into carnage. And by the way, commentator's side note, no wonder so many people in the NASCAR industry were mad at that debris caution because Tony Stewart spoke out about it. Well, he lost 2 cars because of that debris caution. Most of the drivers that spoke out about it were involved in an accident after that debris caution.
Well, Blaney was a little upset with it with Wood Brothers because they had a good finish ruined.
Clint Boyer, I know you and I were upset with that debris caution because we both took Boyer to win that race, and we couldn't text each other fast enough whose fault it was that Boyer hit the wall or got slammed into and cut a tire.
Yeah, and we both had the same thought process that Boyer had a top 5 run at California. It's the same track. Let's go ahead and jump on him this race, but oh no.
Bad day for Danica Patrick. She was running well. She was performing well, as she has done many a times. Caught up in an accident, and yet again, another hard hit. I don't know if it's the way that she is manipulating the car during the slide, because we've seen guys like Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch that can turn the car a certain way to be able to lessen the damage. And that's a tough thing to learn how to do. It's nothing easy. But she needs to learn how to do it, because the number of times she has smacked on the driver's side door of that of the inside retaining wall, those impacts are going to start stacking up.
Well, if you've ever watched the in-car camera when they do it on her, she's got the IndyCar mentality, because that's where she grew up racing. Mm-hmm. You let go of the wheel and you bring your hands in and get them away so you're not breaking your wrists or your thumbs or anything. And obviously you can't control the car if you're not trying to control the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. So, she just lets it go where it may, and, she's little enough and has enough padding in that seat, though, that, she's...
Boy, it sure worries me, though. She hit...
As Austin Dillon would say, she's one tough old broad.
Also bad days for, Austin Dillon, 27th, Clint Boyer, 26th, Ryan Blaney, 25th. Those were all guys that were running close to the front, but involved in a late race accident. Casey Kane, again, struggled, 21st. And A.J. Allmendinger, Trevor Bayne, Brad Keselowski, 18th, 17th, and 16th, respectively. So rough days for a couple of people. But again, Truex gets stage 1 and stage 2, so those bonus playoff points go to him. And then Kyle Larson ends up picking up the win and picking up the most bonus or the most points on the day, 57 for the day. So that's the way Michigan rolled out. Should we talk about Iowa Speedway?
I don't know. Is there anything to talk about?
What a race.
Yeah, William Byron got his win that they talked about all week. We're going to get one. We got it stolen from Denny Hamlin, and then Hamlin got some fines and stuff with a splitter that was not level. We don't know if it was pointed up, pointed down, flipped up sideways, or what. Couldn't tell from the picture at the finish line which way it was, but there was an issue.
Absolutely beautiful weekend at Iowa Speedway.
A little breezy.
To go from what we had the 90s, and then all of a sudden, we're dipping into the 70s as a high. And we both decided to go and wear pants, which, by the way, worked out great for us, because sitting on pit road that last hour last night at the Xfinity race, it got a little chilly.
It went below 60.
We were sitting in inspection line after the race, where they line up all the cars, and I was standing next to David Starr's car, who we'd pitted with. And I was kind of leaning down by the engine compartment because there was so much heat coming off that. And I'm kind of warming myself up like I'm standing next to a campfire. It was a little chilly, but what a great race. And congratulations to William Byron picking up his first career Xfinity Series win. Not eligible for the points championship, but he got the win. Ryan Sieg comes home second, Tyler Reddick third, Ross Chastain fourth, and Dakota Armstrong fifth. The email we got from Iowa Speedway and our friend over there at Edward Williams is youthful exuberance comes through at Iowa Speedway. And you talk about the finishers there. William Byron, Ryan Sieg, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Dakota Armstrong, all of them young guns. And none of those guys are your major hitters in the points championship for the Xfinity Series.
Well, Ryan Sieg's been around a while. He really has. I mean, he was racing in the trucks when I was working the truck series, so
that long ago?
12 to 15 years ago.
My mistake.
Chastain's been around just a couple of years. Dakota Armstrong is 22, 23 years old with a lot of ARCA experience, a ton of ARCA experience. But we also had like Dan had said, we crewed actually. I caught tires last night for the first time in my extended career around racetracks for the 99 of David Starr and the 07 Ray Black Jr.
We kind of got to experience what the Crewman for a Day winner in a couple of weeks is going to be able to experience at Iowa Speedway. So it was really cool. We were just standing around talking with him, kind of networking a little bit and talking with David and his PR girl, Jessica. And she goes, hey, you guys want to go to work tonight?
We're already working.
What do you have in mind? And she says, we need somebody to hold the sign for the pit stops, and we need somebody to catch tires when the team tosses them over after they take them off the right side and they're coming around the car and they kind of roll the tires. There's somebody that sits on the other side of the wall and just catches them so they don't go bouncing down pit road. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll absolutely do that. And so I ended up getting outranked and just had to sit and watch and do a couple videos, which, by the way, that reminds me, I got to post that video of you doing the pit stop.
Of my arms?
Yeah. That was interesting to watch. So congratulations. By the way, David Starr, best finish of the year. He was running up there the whole night, ended up finishing 14th, and he at one point in time he was top 12. And good run for him. That's a team that definitely needs a good finish and a good payout, and to hopefully scare up some extra sponsorship. But we'll post that video of Dirk doing the pit stop on the Front Stretch Facebook page right after the show's over with. But in the meantime, we got to take a break. We got to come back in turn number 2, and we got to talk to Cole Custer, driver of the 00 for Stewart Haas Racing. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
This week's young gun is 20-year-old IMCA stock car driver Buck Shafroth. Buck has grown up around racing, watching his dad, Dave Shafroth, and stepdad, Todd Van Eaton, race. Buck got his start in racing about 7 years ago at the age of 14 when he started racing IMCA hobby stocks. He's traveled all over the Midwest, racing mostly at Stewart Speedway and Adams County Speedway. In 6 years of racing a hobby stock, Buck finished in the top 5 for season point standings twice and landed in victory lane 6 times. This year, he moved into the stock car class and currently leads the season point standings at Adams County Speedway. Buck is working hard at claiming his first track championship in stock cars. Someday, he hopes to compete in the modified class and wants to race at the IMCA Boone Super Nationals. Buck wants to thank his great crew and sponsors for helping him get to the track each and every race day. So keep your eye out for the number 92 Van Eaton Farms Wreckers or Checkers Bar, Myron Hasley Trucking, and Fox Welding stock car driven by Buck Shafroth. The Young Guns is presented by I-80 Speedway, home of the Silver Dollar Nationals, July 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
Friday, July 7th is the Home Pride Kids Money Grab at I-80 Speedway. Bring the kids out for great family fun and the best racing the Midwest has to offer. During intermission, Home Pride contractors will throw $2,000 in change on the front stretch for kids 12 and under to collect. Free tickets can be found at the Omaha and Lincoln Home Pride Contractors locations. Next Friday is also the Bill Rick Memorial Race featuring the Gotcha Series. Get to I-80 Speedway Friday, July 7th for great family fun.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
I think attitude's the right word.
Yeah, I'm a NASCAR crew member. I get
Yeah,
attitude.
we're just a little cockier today. And that's perfectly fine. What kind of big deals?
I mean,
in our own
my
heads.
first day, I pitted 2 cars.
Yeah.
The whole crew
That was
did
interesting.
the 07 and the 99 and a pit stall between us. So
Yeah.
we did a lot of hustling.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. Also, was how they orchestrated that. We'll have to get into that in another conversation. But right now, we're going to talk with Cole Custer. We sat down with the driver of the 00 for Stewart Haas Racing and talked to him about his season and his career. And so here's how we started off our conversation with Cole Custer. We were doing some research on you, and man, you've locked up a lot of records of youngest. So now you got to start locking up a lot of the fastest, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we were lucky enough to set some records there earlier, a couple years ago, and hopefully we can just do the same thing today. And I think we have a pretty good Haas Estimation Mustang, so I think we'll have a shot to do it.
When you're setting those records with how fast your cars are, does that kind of set you up to have kind of a lot of pressure on your shoulders to continue to perform when those records aren't available to continue to set?
Maybe a little bit, I guess. I mean, you don't really focus on the records too much. It's nice to have, and it's cool and everything, but you really just focus on what you're doing at the moment, trying to get whatever you're doing better and better. So we're just focused on this weekend, really, and trying to win a race.
How involved are you with the cars? It's always interesting to me to listen to the litany of drivers that some of them just kind of tell the crew chief what they need to be done. You can tell other drivers are very technical, and so they're able to give specifics. Where do you kind of land on that spectrum?
I guess I'd say I'm somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say I'm an expert or can set a car up or can do anything that these guys can do, really. But I mean, I can work on the car a little bit in the shop, and I can do stuff like that, and I can tell them kind of what I want. But I wouldn't say I'm a 15-year veteran who can really tell them what I really want, you know.
Yeah. But you're slowly getting there. Is it amazing to you at the end of the season you look back and think, Jesus, how far I've come from Daytona?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot about these cars and these races so far that we've run. So we've gotten a lot better, and I've gotten a lot better. So I think we're definitely hitting our stride right now. Hopefully we can keep it going.
And once you finally hit that being comfortable in the car, you'll probably get upgraded, and you have to learn a whole new series of cars in the Cup Series.
Yeah, exactly. Every time you get used to something, it's always something different that comes up. So, but it's fun. It's always a challenge to learn new stuff. So, and you know, the road packages are usually always changing every year. So you're always learning.
Well, it's part of our job to do all that funny speculation and work with the silly season and all that. And I mean, there's a ton of speculation that there's going to be an open seat next year at Newman Haas. Has any of that been brought to your attention?
Not yet. I think I'm focused just on Xfinity stuff and trying to win some races before we do that.
What are your guys' strategy going into the staging, the stage lengths and the stage playoff system? Because I think a lot of people are getting caught off guard by how valuable the playoff points are starting to look as we're getting into the midway point of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the stage wins kind of mean a lot, but the actual stage points, I think we're good enough into the chase right now where we can point our way in as long as we don't make any big mistakes. But the points that you get from winning can carry over to the playoffs, so that's a pretty big deal. But that's the biggest thing I think right now.
Outside of racing, what's some of your hobbies to do? Some of these guys are gearheads, and that's all they like to do is work on cars, see cars, play with cars, that kind of stuff. Is there any kind of hobbies outside of racing that you enjoy?
You know, you try and, you know, whenever you have downtime, maybe you try and go golf or something with some friends or just go out on the lake and hang out. But that's about it, really.
Do you have any creature comforts on the road that you can't live without? I mean, we've talked to some guys that say, I got to have my PlayStation, you know, I just got to have my cell phone, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess your phone. I mean, everybody, I guess, is kind of like that now, but I'd say definitely a cell phone's definitely number one.
You've raced at Iowa before several times in the truck series. The track has character is probably my most favorite way of describing it, and year after year with the harsh winters and the harsh summers, the character grows. So you guys get to come back to a slightly different track every year.
Yeah, I mean, every time it seems like it's a little bit different. I've been coming here for probably 3 or 4 years now, and it's changed a little bit every single time, whether they changed the bump in 1 and 2 or they added some patches down in 3 and 4, and now those are starting to really get some character to them and getting a little bit rougher. So it's just it's always different every single year with those harsh winters.
There's a lot of talk of every time we come to Iowa Speedway of when are they going to get a Cup Series race? When are they going to get a Cup Series race? As an Xfinity driver, are you kind of wanting to keep Iowa in your guys' back pocket and say, Cup guys, stay away?
I mean, it's nice to, you know, have a standalone race where you don't have to battle with the Cup guys and it's kind of just Xfinity guys showcasing what they can do. But it's I think it's definitely a great place, a really great track that could host a Cup race. So I think it would be great for the state and great for the community to have one.
Yeah, and Dirk, that's no joke. Every time we go there, there's more and more articles posted about drivers that want to race at Iowa Speedway, Cup Series drivers that want to race, and a couple of drivers were added to that list this weekend. You look at the hurdles that Iowa Speedway and the Cup Series has to overcome for that to happen, and you start to lose faith a little bit because there's a lot of things that are outside of Iowa Speedway's control that has to happen.
Well, luckily for Iowa Speedway, the fact that NASCAR owns the racetrack is definitely on their side. I mean, NASCAR could put a race in there next year if they wanted to. Obviously, they didn't because the schedule's already been released.
Well, and contracts are contracts. They've got long-term contracts. And I've got faith that eventually the Brickyard 400 is going to go away. They're
we can only hope.
Yeah, I know. They're making adjustments to it to try to make it better for 2018, 2019, and 2020. To my knowledge, they have a contract with IMS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for up to the 2020 season. So the soonest we could see a Cup Series race at Iowa Speedway, I think, would be 2021. I think that's the most realistic race that is going to drop off the schedule because IMS isn't owned by the two major track owners that operate within NASCAR and own a majority of the series. So NASCAR could easily replace Indy and put Iowa on there and not disrupt the other political climate with the other two track owning groups.
And I mean the two tracks are only a little over 400 miles apart, so it wouldn't even be that much of a logistics nightmare. A couple hours more driving. But one thing that the area over there around Newton, they have built it up. They do have they might still be short of hotel rooms to bring a Cup Series race in. But, I mean, compared to when the first nationwide race I went to in 2009, they didn't have motel rooms. You had to go to Des Moines to stay, and now they've got several motels built up right there. They've got several right at the track, that obviously are not going to be cheap on race weekend, but
it would be
they
very
have a facility.
It'd be very interesting to see what Cup Series power and talent could do at that track. I think it would be a good race, but oftentimes I've been wrong when predicting that kind of stuff. You could just never really tell until it happens.
Well, one of the things that you're seeing, like you say, you've got more Cup drivers that want to have a race there. That's because they've raced there in the Xfinity or the Nationwide Series in the last several years, and they've moved up to Cup, and they say, that Iowa Speedway is a great facility, and that's what both people that we talked, actually everybody we talked to this weekend, all the drivers love the track.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really do hope that NASCAR starts to make the moves towards in the next 10 years is people have been complaining about the 1.5 mile tracks for the last 15 years. Cars get spread out. It's just, there's very little I think NASCAR can do with it. They have tried and tried and tried with the Gen 6 car, the revisions to the aero packages, the changes to the car to try to make the cars more competitive. It's just not great racing. Every once in a while, you're going to get a good race out of a 1.5 mile track. This kind of sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I think Kansas race in May this year was a good 1.5 mile race. It was probably the best you could expect out of a 1.5 mile track, but I hope they start moving the schedule closer or back towards the short tracks because, man, we've seen some amazing racing at the short tracks.
Yeah, well, the short tracks on the schedule, there just really aren't that many, so...
not enough. I think a lot of fans would definitely agree that there is not enough short tracks on the menu.
And to me, that's one of the things with losing the race at New Hampshire. Even though the New Hampshire race could get boring, but still, it was only a 1 mile racetrack. And that race went to Vegas, which is 1.5 miles.
Yeah, and which puts on a good race. There's also that underlining factor of ticket sales. We talk about it would be awesome if we could just completely move the NASCAR Cup Series schedule back to short tracks, and that's all we went and raced. No more of these 1.5 mile tracks.
You know how many fans they'd get back?
Well, but the logistics of it, though, there's only so many seats available. And they have, I was looking over the old results sheets, and typically a NASCAR race paid about $4.5 to $5 million total purse for first through 43rd, which we obviously don't know now. There's not 43 cars in the field anymore. It's typically 38. But still, it's about a $4.5, $5 million purse. It is incredibly difficult for a place like Iowa Speedway to pay that purse when they only have 40,000 available seats.
Well, but they put in temporary seats for the first nationwide race, and they sat almost 70,000 people. And there aren't too many 1.5 mile tracks getting 70,000 people. So if they could fill Iowa Speedway, as opposed to having a half full, 1.5 mile track, they could pay the purse. There's
a lot of logistics that stand in the way of that happening, but you got two guys that are sitting here talking to you saying, I hope they find a way, because it would be great to see. Should we take a quick break, come back in turn number 3, and we'll talk with Justin Allgaier?
That's my attitude coming through. No, we shouldn't.
We'll be back here on the front stretch.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. It's also worth noting Cole Custer finished 24th last night. Had a top 10, top 15 car, but him, like many others, got caught on pit road late when making green flag stops. One of those was Brendan Gaughan, a friend of the show, was caught a lap down because he was sitting on pit road getting his green flag changes when the caution came out. And Brendan not very happy after the race last night.
No, wouldn't even talk to us. Didn't.
Yeah,
he was fuming.
Which, you kind of understand because Brendan won, stage 2?
Yeah, he won stage 2, and he's in it for the championship.
Yeah.
He's like, he'll self-admittedly say, I don't know how many years I've got left to do this, so I'm trying to take advantage of it. And last year he was a big supporter of the playoff system coming in to the Xfinity Series. And he says now, he goes, for the last several years, I haven't been able to run for a championship, but now I've got that opportunity.
Yeah, and hopefully he can rattle off a win here shortly and lock himself into the playoffs. But a tough finish for Brendan, tough finish for Cole Custer. Like I said, both of those guys had quality cars. I think Brendan had one of the top 5 cars. He should have had a top 5 finish, and that's understandably why he was upset and just didn't want to talk with us. We didn't try to sit down and have an interview with him or anything. He didn't Donnie Schatz us like we've done in the past. But we just walked up and said, hey, man, you kind of walked up to him and just tried to have a little slight conversation. He just, kind of shook his head and walked off. And, that happens.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the way those two finished. Again, we can't say it enough. If you have the opportunity, get over to Iowa Speedway and do a little bit of fan enjoying because it's such a cool track. I think that, at Kansas Speedway, you can get locked up in the glitz and glamour of it all and kind of feel like it's a big stadium, and you don't feel like you're there. I don't know. But at Iowa Speedway, it feels so much like a dirt track. Like you're on top of the action. You could see everything. You could hear everything. There's not a bad view in the place. Tickets are cheap. I mean, kids get in for free to Xfinity and Truck Series races. So kids 12 and under are getting into this season for free. I highly recommend you get over to Iowa Speedway on July 9th for the IndyCar race. One of my favorite races all year long.
Well, and next year, plan on going over. I mean, the truck race had a fantastic finish.
It started off slow because Christopher Bell was just licking the field, but once the track cooled off and the sun went down, his
sounds kind of like the Saturday night race too, where the Christopher Bell was kind of licking the field.
Yeah.
But he ended
Talented
up not being
kid.
there at the end. Yeah. And but the truck race, they had a caution late, and Johnny Sauter decided not to pit, and they were talking to Dave Shearer during the caution laps, and he goes, I guess I messed up on that one. And so he was out there with old tires, and the guys came through with new tires. And he was running second when the caution came out, and he was able to hold on for second with the old tires. So, he really didn't lose anything, but, he didn't gain anything.
The guy we're going to hear from next is the driver of the number 7 for Jr Motorsports. We'll talk about his finish in the Xfinity Series race when we get back, but here's our conversation with Justin Allgaier. All right, in the hauler for the number 7 for Justin Allgaier, the Brandt Chevrolet driver. And Justin, doing pretty well in the Xfinity Series this year. We haven't got a chance to talk to the Xfinity guys much with the limited coverage we get with you guys, so kind of want to get your perspective almost halfway through the season. What are your thoughts on the stage racing and the playoff points and all that stuff that's starting to really kind of take hold?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you start the season out, you're never really sure what's going to happen, how it's all going to play out. When there's changes, I think, as drivers and as teams, we're as cautious and as leery of changes as the fans are, so we kind of want to know what we're getting ourselves into before we do it. And this year, I think we were all probably a little optimistic that it would be a great thing, and now that we've seen it and it's kind of settled in and we understand it a lot better, it's been great. I mean, the points, the way that they are, the stage racing, coming down to the end of these races. I mean, the beginning parts have been crazy, but the ends have been even crazier, so all of that is really changed the dynamics of these races, especially in the Xfinity Series, because we have Cup guys, we've got kind of one-off guys that are running more of a limited schedule, so there's a lot of change in our series, so you never really know who you're racing with, how that's going to affect you when the season ends and all that fun stuff. So it's been good so far, but definitely different.
Yeah, it's tough when you come to a weekend like at Iowa Speedway. You have to look at the entry list on Monday or Tuesday to find out who you're going to be up against come on Saturday night. And so that kind of has to play out some of your strategy a little bit, too, of what Cup guys are registered.
Yeah, this racetrack here in Iowa has always been a lot of fun because, the standalone races have really been great. It's maybe deterred some of the Cup guys from coming over. It's a little bit hard logistically to get here especially this weekend from Sonoma for them. So, this weekend's actually a pretty good field. We've got Sam Hornish, we've got Christopher Bell, Ty Majeski, Kyle Benjamin. There's a lot of guys that are filling in for those Cup seats where a Cup driver would normally drive, and giving those guys an opportunity, which unfortunately they're all really, really fast. So we got to beat all of them. Try to beat all of them. But on the flip side of that, though, it's definitely been it's been cool to see this weekend. I think we got a great field of cars, and obviously we're here in Iowa. The fans are incredible. This race is usually packed out, and from a driver standpoint and from a series standpoint, that's all you can ever ask for.
Well, I think like you were talking with having a lot of the Truck Series regulars, it looks like are going to step over and run with you guys. I think that's why NASCAR put these races together. I know they did it last year, but I've been coming over here since 2009, which was the first Xfinity year, or back then nationwide race. And I remember watching all the guys come in from Pocono on the helicopters and stuff in the morning, all starting in the back. And for me, that made great racing.
Yeah, it's always fun because you never really know how the race is going to play out here, because you don't know who's going to be in it and how it's all going to go. But the truck race here is a great precursor to our race. The way that the races play out for the truck race, it gives us a great opportunity to watch, because if ARCA or K&N or some of the other series are here, it doesn't necessarily equate as much to what we do. But on the flip side of it, the Cup guys all coming here and running those first few years, the schedule was a lot closer. The way that Pocono, obviously you can't run at night. We were racing a lot of night races here. They were able to get here pretty easily. The fact that they put the effort into coming here, really shows how great of a racetrack this is and how much they would love to come here and run. I know from my experience in years past, just talking to fans and being on the Cup side for a few years, there's a lot of guys on the Cup side that would love to have this as a Cup Series race. So we love coming here as an Xfinity Series. I know the truck guys love coming here, but hopefully someday we can get a Cup race here and really see what that'll play out like.
Probably got tired of hearing this question over the last year or two, but where do you stand on the Cup guys racing the Xfinity? Because I think that's a pretty tough one. It's a double-edged sword of, if you take them away, you lose some butts in seats and you lose some driver teaching the newer you guys. But then you also open it up to be a more clean point series. When there's a champion at the end of the year, it's a pure champion.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part. There's so many dynamics of, do you give a younger guy an opportunity that's maybe not as well known, that is trying to learn, or do you sell more sponsorship because the Cup guy's in the car? Do we have more fans with grandstands? There's so many things that play into it. Personally, I'm okay with them being here. I almost kind of wish there was maybe a limit, though. Maybe one race, you say, okay, at Michigan, three Cup guys can run the race. I don't know how you would ever pull that off if 10 of them decided that they wanted to come run it. But, it would be nice to limit them to, how many guys can be in the race, just to give some of those seats to guys that are trying to come in. That's one of the beauties of here at Iowa this weekend. We're seeing guys that haven't gotten that opportunity a whole lot in the past get great opportunities here. And I think, I was very fortunate that I started with a team that took a flyer and gave me an opportunity, really unproven, and taught me a lot. But on the flip side of that, we've not really had that lately. There's not been a whole lot of that as we've progressed. So I'd love to get back to seeing more of that and really putting the Xfinity Series back into the stage of where you're really growing and you see a lot of different names than what you see on the Cup side.
You've been kind of one of these guys that, you've driven for a lot of teams and you've helped them elevate their game just a little bit. What's on the horizon for you? One of our topic of conversations on the show in the next month is going to be the Cup Series silly season, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to be able to come back up into the Cup Series and set yourself back into the Premier Series. Is that something you're looking to do? Everybody always wants to go and race the Cup, but maybe this is the time in your career where you're just kind of like, I kind of enjoy the Xfinity Series, the lighter atmosphere, like Dirk just said, the weekends off.
For me, I loved the Cup Series. Being a little kid growing up, that was the goal, right? Get to the Cup Series, and unfortunately, just the opportunity that I had wasn't what I needed to be able to kind of thrive. It was just the wrong atmosphere, the wrong budget. Just things weren't the way we needed them to be. That being said, for me, I personally would love to go back. I would love to get back in a Cup car, but on the other side of it, if it's a similar situation to what I was in before, there's not a chance I would do it again. I would probably walk away from the sport, to be honest with you, before I did that. I've been very lucky here at Jr Motorsports. You've got a great organization, great group of people. I've been very lucky in all of my NASCAR career to really be with 3 different teams, including this one here this year. Kind of change of ownership and personnel as I stayed with those 3 different teams. But I love where I'm at right now. I feel like personally, mentally, physically, people, everything wise, I'm in the best position I've been in since I started in the NASCAR series. I've got some experience, but on the flip side of it, I'm still have enough fire to want to go out there and try to win each week. If the right opportunity came, yeah, you'd be crazy not to go back to the Cup Series. But at this point, for me personally, I don't see that opportunity going to be there. Never say never. But if as of today, where I'm at right now, I'd love to be back in the 7 car again for a number of years to come.
I know when we talked to you a couple of years ago, it was just after NASCAR had made a big downforce change. You had 1 year in the car and a big change, and you said, "Boy, I wish I'd never driven it last year, so I wouldn't have that experience." Do you still feel that way, or now do you enjoy the actual experience?
No, I would say probably yeah. I wish I hadn't run the high downforce stuff, but that's one of the things. I mean, you look at drivers, right? Adapt or be replaced. That's kind of where it's at. And Jimmy Johnson, a lot of people don't give Jimmy the credit that he deserves. I mean, he's gone through 3 different styles of cars, and 3 different generations of cars and multiple aero changes, and still has won as many championships as he won. So, I think from that standpoint, that's incredible to me. Like I look at that and I go, man, that's absolutely awesome. Now, granted, he has all the tools, and he's got the people and the personnel. That's that and the budget, and that's a big part of it. But on the flip side of that, there's not a lot of race car drivers that could do that same thing, even with that opportunity. So, for me, I wish. I mean, heck, we'd all wish it would be easy, right? If everything was easy, we'd all be doing it. But on the flip side of that, it is fun after the fact. In the moment you're like, man, I wish things were differently. But after the fact, it's always like, okay, that was actually a really good time. And truth be told, I probably learned a lot during those moments, about myself and about how to drive a race car that I maybe wouldn't have had I not had those opportunities. So,
and talking about with having the budget to do it, you've been pretty fortunate that Brant has been a major supporter of you anywhere you've gone, and they've followed you and supported you with that. That's got to be great to know that you've got a great supporter like Brant that's going to help you with your career.
Yeah, I mean, everybody at Brant Professional Agriculture has been incredible. Rick Brandt, the CEO, has been somebody that not only has been a great supporter of mine, but just a great friend. And to have them kind of follow along with the progress and see where things have gone. It's been pretty incredible. So we call it the Brandt family. Being part of the Brandt family, customers, employees, everybody that's kind of involved there, they do such a great job of bringing their customers and their families and their employees and their families to the racetrack, that it's made it fun. It kind of coincides. I'm a very family-oriented person. My parents, my in-laws, my wife, my daughter, everybody travels a lot, so travels to the racetrack with us a lot. And so to have that kind of same atmosphere from a sponsor is incredible.
Do they do a lot of stuff with I'm being in the farming community. I've never actually seen a Brandt logo before, other than on your car and on your fire suits. But growing up in the farming community, what do they do with professional agriculture?
Yeah, so basically plant micronutrients, a lot of the things that the fertilizers and different chemicals and agronomy. They're basically trying to more or less in today's day and age, it's really hard because people don't realize. Number one, you talk to people at a grocery store and they just think that the vegetables magically appear in a grocery store. They don't understand the process that goes along behind it. But also too, just the fact of how we're not gaining any ground. We're not growing ground, especially farmable ground, and we're growing in population, and unfortunately people don't realize how sparse our food supply could be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And I think that's the hardest part, and their big thing too is education, of understanding where things are at. They've been growing as a company since I've been there. They've grown internationally in an incredible amount. They've got plants in Brazil and in Spain now. All over the United States, a lot of I'm trying to think how many countries. It's like 70 countries that they sell product in. It's just absolutely incredible, and to see their growth and to see their passion for the agriculture industry is pretty incredible. That all being said, it's a fun company. It's a family-owned company. Been around for almost 65 years. Just absolutely incredible people, and I think from a looking at it from the outside and now being able to be a part of it, it's just a great organization to be a part of.
Being a part of the Xfinity Series, like Dirk said, you get a couple of weekends off here and there, but it can get very arduous. I mean, weekend after week, you're at the track, you're staying not in your bed at home, but in a slightly less comfortable bed. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable thing, but something you obviously deal with because that's a part of the game. So what's one thing that you have to have on the road with you to make it just a little bit easier to get through each weekend?
Well, I'm very lucky that my family travels with me a lot, so with them being here, it makes that travel a lot easier. On the flip side of that, we're very lucky we have a motorhome. We're able to have toys and things for my daughter and a place to kind of hang out, whenever things get really busy. But when they're not there, I'm usually on my phone FaceTiming or texting back and forth or calling, trying to make sure that I keep up with them, and that's always a big deal. So, I think it's just finding that balance. Even though the schedule is tough, we're very fortunate. We go to a lot of cool places. We see a lot of really cool things, and we're very fortunate that we can fly to most of these racetracks and do a lot of fun stuff. Yeah,
and it's got to be a lot of fun to be able to go out and tour some of the local community and see a lot of the local stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to go out as much as we'd like to. Just with our schedules the way that they've been. It's our schedules on the weekend are pretty packed in and pretty tight. Here in Iowa, we flew in this morning, and then we'll leave as soon as the races are over tomorrow night. So you're not here a whole lot, but a lot of it is finding restaurants and finding things to do that you can go to after the garage closes or before. It makes it a lot of fun.
So that was Justin Allgaier, driver the number 7 for Jr Motorsports, and he finished, 9th on the night. Had a good running car and kind of got shuffled around a little bit, but fought for the lead for a little bit there. So congratulations to Justin on a good top 10 finish. We're going to take a.
Do you remember last night when we were leaving? And it just kind of rang through my brain here just a second ago. And he said, and we'll be leaving right after the race tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. We weren't even on the highway yet. There were already planes taking off from the airport behind the speedway.
Couple of things to make note of. We got a couple of minutes, so we got to head into turn number 1. And I wanted to kind of talk about some of the stuff with Justin.
But we will go back to turn number 4 before we go to turn number 1.
Oh, boy. Did I just say that? It's been a long day. Long couple of hours. All right. Justin mentioned that in order for him to move back up into the Cup Series, because we know that there's going to be some rides available, there's speculation that there's going to be quite a few quality rides available. In order for him to move back up, it's got to be the right situation. And that's the second time we have been told that while at Iowa Speedway. Sam Hornish Jr. was the one that told us that and said, I'm not just going to take any Cup ride, because there are Cup rides out there that I can take. But at a point in my career, I don't have much time left. It needs to be a competitive ride. And that's interesting to say that they would rather walk away 4 or 5 years still in their prime if they don't have that quality ride.
Well, he's been to the show. He knows what it's going to take. He was in a quality ride and wasn't getting it done. So he's not going to, stop and take, like Clint Boyer did last year just to stay in a car for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody thinks that Clint's, rejuvenated and a whole new driver this year. Yes, so far he's having a pretty decent season, but he's in so much better equipment. It's just unbelievable.
Right. The other thing he said was he gave Jimmy Johnson a lot of credit for winning his 7 championships in so many different facets of cars. And I thought that was worth pointing out because people just say that, Jimmy benefits from the best equipment and the best yada, yada, yada. If that was the case, then all 4 Hendrick cars would have finished 1, 2, 3, 4 if they had the best equipment, or Jimmy would have walked away with the championships, or any of this stuff. Jimmy is still able to go out there when they change the Aeroforce package 3 years in a row, when they switch generation cars, when they make all these adjustments, tires are different. He's got the same car everyone else does, and he's still able to go out there and win 4 or 5 races in the year and win a championship.
Yeah, and I mean, people, always kind of rag on NASCAR a little bit, about the fact that, all these cars are the same and it's cookie cutter cars. It's almost like an IROC series. And that's pretty much true. NASCAR's goal is to make the cars equal and make the driver win the race.
Right.
And obviously a guy with 7 championships, over a fairly short period of time has won a lot of races. And, he's obviously a good driver.
Yeah.
Give the guy his props.
Great race last night again at Iowa Speedway. Congratulations to William Byron on picking up his first NASCAR Xfinity Series win. Bright things in that guy's future.
Congratulations to David Starr for a career best finish that
season best.
I helped on. Season best.
Season
correct.
best 12th. And
might even be a career
14th,
best in the Xfinity Series too, because he's never had a whole lot of luck up there. He won some truck races, but
we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn 4, and we will wrap this baby up. This is the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Friday, July 7th is the Home Pride Kids Money Grab at I-80 Speedway. Bring the kids out for great family fun and the best racing the Midwest has to offer. During intermission, Home Pride contractors will throw $2,000 in change on the front stretch for kids 12 and under to collect. Free tickets can be found at the Omaha and Lincoln Home Pride Contractors locations. Next Friday is also the Bill Rick Memorial Race featuring the Gotcha Series. Get to I-80 Speedway Friday, July 7th for great family fun.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
We don't really have a driving topic for today, but if you want to call up and just say whatever's on your mind, we're happy to talk to you for the last 8 minutes of the show. Turn number 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube today and enjoy some of the best wings the Midwest has to offer, some cold beers while watching Sonoma today on FS1 and on radio on PRN starting at 2 o'clock. I believe the green flag's set to wave at about 2:13 p.m. Our Central Time. So make sure you tune in for that. And Dirk, I love saying this. It is the final Fox Sports broadcast of the year.
What took so long?
NBC will take over the broadcast next Saturday night as we go under the lights at Daytona, and they will carry us through Homestead.
We're going to have to work on getting one of the NBC guys on.
I was thinking about that. We got to get one of our guys on the show and kind of start doing some quality recaps again. We don't get that opportunity the first half of the season. Quality is the key word there. Let's preview Sonoma. Today's race, Sonoma's interesting. It's not Watkins Glen. It's an abrasive track on tires. And guys have been talking all week long about 4 or 5 laps into the run, your tires are shot. And so you really got to conserve and take care of your equipment.
Well, I'm going to be interested to see exactly how many different strategies get played out pit-wise because this is our first road course with stages.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. You might see some guys literally at that 5-lap mark coming in and grabbing a set of tires.
Absolutely.
And then going back out. I think we were trying to figure out yesterday, we were talking about this, and we were trying to figure out exactly what they were going to lay out with segments. Didn't we come up with 30, 30, and 50?
25, 25, and 60.
Okay, that's right. That's what it was. And we were figuring they could do a fuel run for the 25. So they're not going to have to stop for fuels, but will they stop for tires? To get out of pace. Usually a guy that wins a road course gets on a weird pit strategy.
Yeah.
And as long as there's no caution like in the last 10 or 12 laps, then they're either got a big advantage or a big disadvantage.
This has been a race, and I've always been told that road courses is where crew chiefs started working the race from backwards
right,
and started planning out their strategy there. Like you said, last year, there's all sorts of strategies to play out, which is one of the fun things about road courses is that whoever's leading isn't necessarily the fastest car on the track. And that happens a lot of times during the Sonoma and Watkins Glen races because the fastest cars are on a different pit strategy, and it takes time for everyone to cycle through. And it'll really come down to the last 15 laps. So you got to pay attention the whole race to find out who's going to be up there for the last 15. And like you just said, it's going to be really interesting to see how they work this stage racing and how that factors into working the race backwards. This race last year was the apparent rigged race because Tony Stewart won in his final year, was able to get by Denny Hamlin in an awesome last 3-4 laps of the race. Hamlin kept stalking Stewart, and Tony screwed up in one turn and thought he'd lost the race, but just drove it hard in the last corner and was able to get by Denny Hamlin and get the win. Joey Logano came home second, Carl Edwards fourth, Martin Truex Jr. fifth. Harvick, Kyle Busch, Newman, Kane, and Kurt Busch rounded out the top 10. That was this race last year. And again, we only raced Sonoma once in the year, so that was the only time we went there.
We had a nice little talk because you mentioned Carl Edwards, and there was a couple articles out this weekend that he's in Sonoma and he had some sponsorship stuff to go to. And
yep.
We were talking to some people with Roush, and one of them was a crewman for Carl back, had been up until Carl left for Joe Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
And he does not think Carl's coming back.
Yeah.
He thinks Carl's done.
And I think that's becoming more and more of the sentiment. For a long time after Carl announced his departure, not the R word, the departure from NASCAR, it was so weird that the way it happened that nobody wanted to believe that this was just genuinely a guy that decided, I want to step away for a while. But now, as he hasn't been at racetracks, he hasn't been attending anything. He's been sailing. He's been farming. He's been working on his property. I mean, he's been doing everything except anything having to do with racing. And now he's back at Sonoma this weekend again for sponsor obligations. And it's starting to sound more and more like we really have seen Carl Edwards turn the last laps of his racing career.
The articles all started off with the same quote, so there must have been a bank of reporters listening around us, Carl. And Carl starts out with, I've been weighing my options, and I've been talking here, and I've been talking there. And then he goes, oh, no, I haven't.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I haven't talked to anybody.
Yeah, unfortunately, Carl Edwards, I don't have faith right now that Carl Edwards is coming back. There's always little caveats that, maybe he's under contract with Joe Gibbs that he can't go and drive anything else. So, great for us on the late model. On the dirt side, we were hoping, like Tony Stewart's doing, now that he's outside of his contract with NASCAR, that he would go and race more sprint car races, which he is, but we were hoping Carl would come and race more dirt late models or come and play around a little bit more. Maybe he is still under contract that he can't.
Oh, he's still under contract. That's a given.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see that in the next couple of years, but I don't think we're ever going to see him in the Cup Series again. I would be surprised to see him in the Xfinity Series or even in the Truck Series.
Well, Carl's a classy guy, and if he's going to sign something with somebody and come back, it'll be out there, but he'll tell it at the right time. He's not going to give his hand up otherwise.
Martin Truex Jr. was fastest in first practice, Kyle Larson fastest in second practice, and he qualified on the pole. Let's see, Elliott and Jones plus Kenseth are all going to start from the back. Kenseth had to change an engine, and Elliott and Jones both wrecked out their cars and went to backups. We'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.